my name is Zaneb. I am the client success manager for the East Coast. I have come from higher education. I did 12 years in admissions and enrollment management. So this topic is really exciting for me because was in it to win it. So really excited about it. And I'm excited to talk with you about what you all are doing with Mongoose in that space. I'll let Jasmine introduce herself as well.
Hey, everybody. Nice to see y'all. I'm Jasmine. I am the client success manager here at Mongoose for the Midwest. I am actually based in Texas. I have worked in higher ed most of my career before coming to ed tech, mostly in diversity and community engagement. So excited to have this conversation with you all. And I will kick it over to Josh.
Thanks, Jasmine. Hi, everyone. My name's Josh Beek. I am your product support specialist. Also came from higher education, about a decade in admission at 4 different institutions. So definitely love this topic. Excited to hear your thoughts on it. As Zaneb said, I'm going to be in the chat. So if you have any questions, please drop them in there and I will be sure to compile them for the end.
Great. Thank you, guys. Next, I want to introduce our panelists today. We're very grateful for our partners here, and I'm going to let them do a quick intro about who they are, what institution they come from, and their background, and then we'll get started.
Hi, I'm Ryan Ellenbeck. I work at Onondaga Community College. I have been in enrollment for 15 years in the traditional admission world. And recently I just switched over to international student services. Been using Mongoose for quite some time, around 8 years or so, and have seen it transform our enrollment numbers and honestly the entire campus. So I'm excited to be here, and Mongoose has been really good to me.
Hello, my name is Aniel, and I work at Century College as an admissions communications coordinator. I've been in this role for about 5 years. I started at the testing center and transitioned over to admissions. It's been a great uh, process and ways to communicate to our students. Um, so it's been fun and challenging at the same time.
Thank you guys so much. So we're just gonna go ahead and get started. We're not gonna have a lot of slides today. Really, we want this to be open discussion and have a lot of conversation. So first and foremost, you talked a little bit, both of you talked a little bit about what your roles are right now, but what part of the process do you and your team support in the enrollment journey? And just tell us a little bit more about your institutions and how you're using Mongoose.
So just to kind of start it off, so I have seen it go from, I worked with onboarding. So basically post-application, we would try to get students registered. So a lot of you work with the traditional deposit. Our deposit is when a student does a registration form for us, and then our student navigators, advisors, take it over and they register the student. But what we instituted originally was we had around 50 people on campus that would text and needed to know the enrollment pipeline, and I orchestrated everything behind the scenes, so I was able to make everyone seem like an enrollment expert. And part of Mongoose was part of a Title III grant for us where we used it to build relationships, get students on the right path, and knock down barriers for them. So we had a communication flow, and I oversaw all of that. Didn't oversee all the employees using it, but I oversaw the process and worked with them. So that was kind of the introduction to getting the whole, I guess, system down in place where admissions could do admissions, navigators could do what they do. The handoff was seamless because we started with texting. Texting flowed pretty well through the enrollment pipeline, and then students were being reached out to by their advisor and navigator and orientation through the whole process. So we started, I would say, building the plane while we're flying it, and it really just worked all the way through. It was pretty streamlined. And now, just like, you introduce new software, new things to a campus, and everyone's really, concerned and on edge. We're 8 years into it, and I would even say that our community, because of the way that we do things, it's just how we do things, and the community knows that, so they pay attention to their text. And I will say that using it as a tool, using it to build those relationships, make students believe that they belong, it just creates a much more strong sense of community through texting. And I always say this, and it's one of the things that I would say anyone using Mongoose should do is, yes, you want to be professional, but you also want these students to think that you're sitting on your text or on your couch texting. Be formally informal. Use it as a bridge between nervousness and success, but you're their person in between. And I do want to say the AI component is wonderful, but attach it to a person.
Thanks, Ryan. Neil, do you have any input on that? Oh, Neil, you're on mute.
Yes. So I just want to give a background that Century College is a community and technical college located in White Bear Lake, Minnesota. We are one of the Minnesota State college and systems here. My work specifically work with prospective students, applicants, returning students, visiting or non-degree seeking students, and really trying to get them move forward with their next steps. Right. So our team really supports like milestones, including orientations, course placements, admissions, communications. We also do events, and um, how do we get them, or how do we break that barrier between um, admissions and enrollment? So that is the biggest question, and the biggest wall that we continue to face, especially as our students continue to evolve. And one way that we continue to break that barrier is um, our communication style, right? And one of the tool is Mongoose, and also our Salesforce. So we do have those two integrated. So it's been really helpful, really target who our students are and how we can kind of give them a little nudge um, to get them to their next step.
Thanks so much.
Thanks. So y'all both highlighted the important role your teams are playing throughout the enrollment journey. So I really just want to learn a little bit more about where students may begin to disengage and how you use Mongoose. So where in the enrollment cycle this is for both of you all, do you both see melt happening the most at your institution? So is it like after admissions, before orientation, and how are you using Mongoose to reach out to the students?
So I'd say, like, in the community college world, melt is a constant hurdle. So it's one of those things that students engage and disengage all the time. Um, as was mentioned a little bit earlier, returning students are a big population for us as well. And really, just to put it up front there, clearly I don't work for Mongoose, but I can say that it is a definite game changer for students who are thinking about enrolling. And we'll probably get into this later, but it's the follow-up. Students engage in what you're putting out there, fall off after 2 hours. So what we do is we actually put in a text them on a Tuesday, let it sit until Wednesday. We do that smart text so that we put in there, hey, registration's open, seats are filling up. Did you want the link to sign up? And obviously, we're asking questions to make sure that the students do engage, but that melt constantly happens. Students need those reminders. So in the community college world, it's the reminders. And I come from the four-year side where I know that some students in that world may be a little bit more engaged, but they're probably more engaged with a number of different schools. And you have to be creative sometimes, or you just have to be upfront. So we see them disengage all the time, but it's that constant reminder. And one of the tools that Mongoose puts out there is the campaigns. So I can go in there and see how many people have responded. Yes, I want the link. And how many people actually took the action. So if we have a workflow where we want people to engage, whether it's orientation, you want those students to show up the 2 and 3 times throughout the summer, you text them, give them some time, re-engage, and then you re-engage with them. it's just like those, I won't even say old school, it's still a thing, but those email drip campaigns.
Mm.
But this one's a little bit more live and in their pocket and letting them know, like, hey, something's happening. And unfortunately, we still have to use the, hey, we sent you an email. Take a look at it, because the email has more of that substance. But I see students engage and disengage all the time. And yes, I'm talking about community college, but the private school sector is so, our private and public 4 years are so integral to higher education that students still need to be engaged constantly. We know their attention spans, and I say theirs, my attention span is short. So we give them a quick, pop, engage them again, and now they're thinking about coming back to school. Now they're thinking about that opportunity. You're in their head, and timing's important. For us, it's students have jobs and go to school. Students just graduated and go to school. So we have to do a little bit of different timing for regular traditional students and our adult students. But I think from the 2 year to the 4 year, even into grad school, students are going to go and disengage at all times. You have to give them a value, and you have to encourage them, because they're making these decisions all the time, and they could be ready to go in the morning and then not ready to go in the evening. So communication plans should hover around, you expect students to disengage at any point in time.
Yes, I definitely agree. A lot of, yeah, like mentioned before, how do we break that barrier between admissions and enrollment? Um, and we what we've noticed as well is that students are excited to apply, kind of get started with higher ed. They're coming in to the admissions office, like with more information, and they want instant answers, right? They want the results right away, um, and emails doesn't really get through that right away, right? But giving that message and providing those weekly text messages, letting them know where they are, um, really helps kind of get them engaged. And oh yes, I applied to a college. Yes, I'm going to be attending college, right? And it's going to be starting in a month, in a couple weeks. Um, I need to be ready. So just that text really does help them. And even if we sent them 5 or 6 text messages, they've gone through all of our campaigns and they finally responded. So we still take that as a win, and we respond relatively quick. Is part of our, Mongoose, having it pulled up is
Mm.
part of our daily routine. We go in there, check to see if there's anything, um, and so that we can best help students. So
Yeah, thank you so much. And actually, you mentioned a great some great points there, Aniel. And so, what is it, and how are you segmenting these out? Like, how are you picking what students are going to melt, and how are you focusing on that prevention? So, like, are you looking at FAFSA gaps? Are you looking at special populations? Can you talk a little bit about your segmenting process, and then how do you incorporate Mongoose when you're working through those segmented lists?
mhm. Yeah, certainly. So we do have Salesforce integrated. So we have about 12 fields that we are bringing in from Salesforce, and thinking about these fields, as we want to be intentional. Like, what do we want to bring in? How do we want to target those who um, either let them know about their next step or who have disengaged? And that information also gets brought back to Salesforce, so that we everyone in the team are in the same page, kind of the responses and what we sent them. Um, and I segment it in different ways, right? So there is a segment station in Mongoose from the fields that we have been bringing in. Um, but I also look at reports and dashboards in Salesforce. Each semester it's different every time, um, and we really do a big check-in to students. Like, hey, do you know where you are in the step, right? Like, so we send it like, so we provide a multiple questionnaires, and then they kind of answers based off of that. Um, and that's where we kind of have a better understanding, even though we know where they're at in the process, the admissions process, but we want to know where they at, if they
Mhm.
know where they at in the admissions process, right? Admissions and enrollment as well. So it's kind of gives them a little um, a uh, confirmation
Mhm.
that they at. So it's always fun to see those, and seeing students kind of in and outs. Oh, we sent you a text back in 2024 and you
Mhm.
finally responded. So that's a huge win for us.
Yeah, I remember we always try to find like they always come back or they always need something or sometimes it's just meeting them where they're at. And they don't talk higher ed, so we make up a lot of words on this
Yes.
side. So it's really nice to meet them where they're at. And Ryan, do you have any kind of feedback on how you did identify those students who are potential to melt and then how do you prevent that similar to what we were discussing about segments?
Sure, yeah. So there's a lot of because just about every department on campus has access to Mongoose, and what I do on the front end is kind of give them all the tools that they need and give them specific instructions on how to use the tool. And then we have reports. We're building Slate into everything on campus right now, and eventually we'll get more integrated with Mongoose. But currently, it's students that have a FAFSA file and that have decided, put our school down. So, financial aid, we're lucky enough to have a financial aid service center on campus. So people will sit down with an expert to do their FAFSA. And we use that kind of as a recruiting tool because we're a community resource. So we say anybody can come in and get their FAFSA done with us. So that's one of the enticing ways just on the front end in the enrollment cycle. But we have other opportunity programs that will highlight students who have sent in their financial information or indicate, GPA for our honors program. So there's little bits of data that each department will look at in regards to their specific piece of campus. Or we have, we call them navigators, student success navigators, who are also advisors. They have something that's integrated. I know many use Banner or Colleague, and we integrate our feed directly from that, which we are working with Slate to do. But they have all their lists of students and they have all their built-in cohorts, so they can identify them up front. And once they're registered, that's where, or once they've moved over to the registration side, that's where a lot of the comm flow goes. And that's where we tend to just check in with students, ask them how they're doing, ask them if they're excited about school, what they're nervous about, when their orientation is. So we use the segments, we use the campaigns, and we use data points that different departments all over campus will bring forth. And, it's been great to empower the different offices on campus to be able to do some of this themselves so that the student cycle, it's not just enrollment, it's through their, I say, application to graduation, but
Mhm.
really it's important and hard to get new students. It's, I wouldn't say easier, but it's less expensive to retain them. So this has gone from a, upfront, gotta get, butts and seats to, oh my goodness, this is such a good tool that we can use to check on students with all the other systems on campus. And now we're keeping students. And that's been a big push in our strategic plan. We just had middle states accreditation go through, and Mongoose was asked quite a bit about quite a bit and how we do that, because our retention numbers have gone up. And this is one of the big pieces, is that students know what they're getting themselves into on the front end. And then it's just a way of life until they leave us.
Yeah, I remember when we were on campus, when I was on campus, it stopped being an admissions problem and started being, it's an everybody problem. And so
Yep.
getting everybody and all hands on deck and making sure that student is taken care of from, the first hello to when you say goodbye to them at
Mhm.
graduation.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so I remember being in higher ed and I'm hearing a lot of moving pieces, and I'm sure people in the audience are thinking through, this is a lot, right? We have some people in the audience who possibly are just kind of getting started, getting their feet wet with Mongoose. So I just want to know, as our audience considers how this works on their own campuses, I do want to get a little bit deeper and know, and Ryan, this is for you, who owns responses and how quickly does your team reply? And how do you make sure students don't fall through the cracks? I would just really love some best practices from your team. And then if anyone in the audience has any questions about that, I know that's something I would be worried about. Please just let us know.
Yeah. So as an enrollment person and any admission person on this call knows, we're very social people and we're constantly engaging. And one of the things that I say to anybody that was part of my team when I was in admission was, if you're new to the campus, go say hi to everybody on campus. Get to know campus. Just walk out. And we're different because we don't travel outside of this 5-county region. Traditional admissions, you got to get across the state or across the country, and we totally understand that as well. But the first thing that I always say is know your people, know your campus, and it's hard sometimes in admission. However, it's one central hub, and I've been that for a while, that kind of controls. I controlled the wording, the verbiage, all of that for a long time, and then we got bigger. And I can say off the top of my head, I probably have 70 to 80 users on campus, and a lot of that comes through from the training piece, where I'm very, I'll say strict, but I will tell anybody, don't be the reason that a carrier says that we're not doing it right, or if Mongo, I don't want to be the person that says that Mongoose says, hey, you messed up. So I wouldn't say I strike fear in them, but I just say this is really important because that student that is struggling might not be able to text you. So just make sure that we handle it up front. But I was the hub, but then I started training people very simply on how to use it, and it expanded throughout campus. I would still monitor unread texts. So that was a big thing. And now I don't as much, but telling everyone, hey, it's 24 hours. Okay. 24 hours is the longest you're ever going to let a text sit there. However, and I know that you probably have some eager young folks on here. We've got some people who have been doing this for a while. What I've seen is telling my team, my folks across campus, it's okay if you didn't get to that text by 5 p.m. or whatever, or if you didn't get it for a couple hours. It makes us human. There's an AI component to it. Everyone knows that. However, if you say, "Oh, sorry, I didn't get back to your text" or something, they engage harder. I don't know what it is, but they engage because they recognize that it's a real person. Anytime someone says, "Is this AI?" hit them back with, "It's not." And that's cultivated a lot of our answers. But across campus, I I used to teach second grade, so I am real tough on them in the front, and then I pull back as we go, just because it helps keep things tight. And then that's the culture you build across campus. Is this is a significant tool for us. It will change everything we do, whether it's upfront admissions, alumni, athletics. All these things tie themselves into it. And honestly, I've found, I know this is kind of like a line that it's tough to walk. It's hard to overuse it if you use it correctly, honestly. And a text can come from a mission or their navigator, and they know how to answer it. And we always say, save this with my name on it, put the college down next to it. You can text me whenever, but it's really that relational tool. And I see people not being scared to use it and using it appropriately as long as the culture is there.
And do you find that you have a flow or a time frame of when and how long you wait to try to send in between messages, since you do a lot of this like big campaigns and a structure to your send outs? Do you have like a certain best practice of like send it out 1 to 2 days later? When's your next go around? Like how do you schedule your text messages in that way?
Yeah. So we established a weekly text messages um, to students who've been admitted. So then we have that in place. So we have about 3 text campaigns going out every week. But when it comes, and we also have like biweekly ones from our or for our admissions rep to really be more personalized, and we kind of call it as caseloads, right?
Mm.
Like, hey, I'm Sam. I'm one of your admissions rep. Let me know if you have any questions, kind of those things. Um, but when it comes to a bigger text campaigns, we look at our marketing, um, or I guess we kind of look at the days of our semester, right? So if it's coming up, um, and I also look at our dashboards to see which we need more push off. Especially in our June, July, August, it's always going to be a increase um, towards that fall semester. So we kind of team up and really evaluate how we can uh, be more creative with our messages so that it's a little bit different from what we've sent them in the past. Like Ryan had mentioned that we don't want to sound like robots,
Mhm.
um, even though we are trying to gather as many students as we can, right? How do we have that capacity of being a human? um, so and um, yeah, and what we've done too is um, we I guess one of the things that we tried out this year is connecting students who did not reply. So that's one of the another amazing tool that Mongoose have is students that just didn't respond. Um, so we reconnected with them about a week later, and unfortunately, the response rate is kind of as expected. um, so, like, why respond to the first one or like why respond to the second one if they didn't respond to the first one? But that's kind of like the beauty of it, right? You test things out, see if it goes. You might get up, they might opt out, but that's kind of just the nature of
Mm.
um, things
Yeah.
that is going on in technology.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I guess this is also for both of you all, but Danielle, I'm hearing you say like students sometimes are just disengaged. I would love if both of you could share if you have a memorable experience of a student who may be disconnected from the institution or unenrolled or might have been lost that was successfully re-engaged through text conversation. So like when that happens, do you have a memorable experience of when maybe y'all kind of got them back with text?
Yeah, I definitely have one. And again, I've seen a lot from returning students and whatnot as well, but I pulled one up and I can just see that our simple message was, hey, we noticed you dropped your classes. If you're comfortable sharing, what are your goals in your studies at OCC, and then what made you drop your classes? So it's low stakes. If they're interested in sharing, great, they came back. And this student basically said, I checked my student account and my bill is too high. So I'm on the back end. I get to see what's going on, and the aid just wasn't put in place yet. It had been done maybe a week before, and the student came back and didn't have to pay a dime. So we were able to pick up those classes, and that's actually one of the biggest ones that we look at throughout the summer is students who drop. Students who drop will get a text message from their specific navigator who was working with them post registration, reach out to them, see what's going on. But these are the types of texts that get out there. We try to be empathetic, we try to be understanding, and we try to be, like was said, less robotic. And I think that's where we get the biggest impact. But yeah, I've seen a lot of those, and just a we care about you goes a long way.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
S- Um, I love seeing like the history of communications is where you actually have to use your scroll to to look at all the messages, just because that's when you kind of see those. But Um, what we've seen is that students would come into the admissions office like, hey, I received a text message that, do these kind of steps. And then we were able to kind of look them up, and they were actually ready to register for classes. So then we were able to kind of direct them over to advising. Um, and they were able, and then they came back like, hey, I just want to let you know I registered for classes.
Mm.
I met with my advisor and just felt like confident.
Mhm.
Um, I and one of the, as you all know, even we have kind of lived that experience, the anxiety, the big feelings that we get when we're applying to something like in general, right? Uh, Job interviews, applying to college, doing something out of your comfort zone. So then the fact that we were able to alleviate some of that stress um, does kind of give us a little, uh, like a, what I mean, like a little boost, confidence boost on our end as well. In the admissions that we're doing something, we're doing all right.
Yeah, we love it's just a definitely collaborative effort. Like whenever you're talking to a student or you're using your entire team and all the departments, I think when the entire institution gets on board and you can see that this is helping the student not leave you or prevent them from having that kind of nervousness and getting them to feel confident. When you're looking at your prevention efforts and you're trying to figure out like, how do you look at this as a return on investment? How do you look at it like, how do you benchmark this as like, this was a successful year in admissions? This is successful. This is our yield rates. This is where we're at. And how do you use that to show? And how does Mongoose has helped you, increase your yield efforts and, help with the melt and just making sure that your students are sticking with you and getting through graduation. This is really for both of you, but Ryan, why don't you start? Oh, Ryan, you're on mute.
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing for us with the return on investment and really the whole preventing the melt is really it's in the response rates for us. So I'm able to show that when we send out texts, we're getting 30 to 40 response rates on this text, for registration. So I used to report out where the numbers were, and I would tell folks like, oh, so the response rate was 30% on, I sent out, 400 texts about registration, and we have this many that have come in and actually done it. And we have this many that are in the process, and then this many people said they wanted to, and they haven't done it yet. So these are the pipeline. So I was able to give our VP of Enrollment Management every week the response rates, how many actually had said no, that went into a different list with a different communication flow. So we talk about all these segments and all these pots of students. It's really easy to pull it out because of the data that we get, and we're able to see response rates. For me, that's the biggest one is being able to share that what industry standard is. I'm really proud of, and Zaneb and I have talked about this. We've had in the past hovered right around 30% and above for total response rates, but the admission ones are getting higher and higher. And it definitely is in how we show that. And for us, and I can't stress this enough, is you get responses when you ask a question. And a lot of our question is, hey, it's time to get registered. Are you still interested in getting registered, or do you want the link? Giving them some actionable items that will move the needle a little bit. But that's always been one of the things that I've been able to show the return on investment. Returning students, we're building a flow there. That's, again, we talk about spending less money to get students. This one you're paying cross campus for, but you can segment into all the populations. And I know there are a lot of data nerds out there. This is the tool for data nerd. So yeah, we're able to show that very simply in the response numbers. And then you can dig even deeper. But leadership really likes to see students that are engaged.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, just looking over all of our sent messages in our campaigns, um, seeing double-digit numbers um, makes it a good feeling. um, and I mean, at the end of the day, right, retention rates and um, registration is the most important thing,
Mhm.
right? Yes, it kind of gives you satisfaction of getting higher response rate, but like um, it's hard for us to determine how effective those communications are by looking at retention rates, our registration or enrollment rates. Um, every year we have met our enrollment rates. So I would, in my head, I give that texting
Mhm.
messages are are reasons, one of the reasons why we have met that enrollment rate and and continue to increase. Uh, but you know that I'm not part of that conversation. Um, but I would love to kind of see the correlation between those two and um, really talk about it a little bit more, right?
Mhm.
Because we send so many things, and there's so much data that happens in Mongoose, and that goes on. But um, yeah, how do we find that correlation between um, enrollment and effectiveness of our communication?
Yeah. And I kind of want to stay with you for a second. I'm loving hearing that y'all are hitting your enrollment rates and things like that. But what have you learned over time that's changed how your team has approached, I'm sorry, melt and like melt prevention that has enabled y'all to be able to continue to hit those enrollment numbers?
Yeah, creativity. I would say we also use cars, which is our call center. We just really being creative with different type of campaigns, um, finding the patterns. Um, what are we seeing, and different incentives, um, different events to bring students in to campus even if they're completely taking online classes. How do we kind of bring them in, get accumulated with the campus um, engagement, right? Um, engage, uh, and yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Ryan? What has your team learned on how they are approaching melt by using Mongoose?
Yeah, I would say we've everybody talks about it, the handoff. Where is the handoff? But not showing our students the handoff, and just again, when we're doing the admission piece and the enrollment piece, once they're registered, they get a whole new communication flow, and they never see the, oh, I was your admission person, and oh, well, now I'm your navigator. The admission enrollment piece stops and the navigator piece starts. So it's that student journey. We all talk about the student journey, but within text messages, you can see it, and you can see it in the whole thread of what we've communicated. But I think the student, that's really the comm flow that's from start to finish, is you start with a person and then you start getting text from another person. And I was just looking at some things right now. We have what's called our community care hub, and they do our online um, counseling and therapy, or our food bank, or different things. And they use texting to, hey, your appointment's coming up at 1. I can't wait to see you, that type of thing. For our financial aid service center, using the text message for their appointment. So they all get it up front, and then it's just a way of life. And um, I've seen that has just engaged even for the student even further. And because they're so in it, when something comes up, they actually reach out. And we talk about using it to reach out to their navigator if their car breaks down or something comes up where they can't get to campus. People advocate, they find their people, and then they work in concert. So that has certainly impacted Melt quite a bit, just because students know the one tool they can use to get a hold of someone when something happens. And I've seen students save money because they've dropped a class or they've added something or gotten an opportunity. Our career services uses it to get in touch with students about internships and whatnot. But it really is using it less to say, hey, there's this big thing, come sign up or come on. It's using it less that way and making it personal, identifying who you are, identifying who they are, and then just making it that conversational, I say tool, but everyone that I have across campus that uses it thinks it's so fun. And they all dip into different things that they have. And then I go to different departmental meetings throughout the year. And I always say, if you find something that you're interested in that our friends at Mongoose haven't done yet, let's make a suggestion and see what they say. Because from the first time we used it, we've seen a lot of different things that have helped our population. And the folks at Mongoose have always been very interested in hearing from us to build something better. So it is a two-way conversation, just like it is with our students. It is with Mongoose as well.
Yeah, we love, I think part of it is that we're all kind of all higher education nerds also. So we're nosy, and then we are just really trying to collaborate and work together to help you all and bring these students to wherever they need to be. We know we talked a lot about today about successes and like best practices and all the things, but I'm gonna turn this around a little bit, but it's also like a learning moment, right? So like, what is like one mistake or one thing that you kind of did in the beginning or you did maybe last week and then you had to pivot, right? Because we're always about pivoting, and also higher it's always about reflection and going back and changing and talking about it. So what is one mistake that you all happen to do when you're working with at-risk students, and then how did you change? And like you said, and now and yell that you just try something new and be creative. Like, what is it that you did wrong, and then how did you fix it? And this is to both of you, so
Yeah, I can start. I think in the beginning of, I think when we initially implemented Mongoose, we, I would say, I wasn't too knowledgeable of segments, and um, I just, fall semesters coming up, and had this idea of like, oh, why don't we gauge where students are at, how they're feeling about the upcoming semester. So one of the things I sent out was like, "Hey, send a emoji, or how are you feeling this semester?" And it was over, oh man, 4 to 5 thousand students. And when I spoke with our director of our enrollments, she was like, "Hey, we have tons of text messages coming in, just flooding of gifts and like emojis, and um not knowing the capacity of how we would respond to those, right? And oh gosh, it took like 2 days to respond or just archive it. So that's, yes, it's very important to know who you're sending it to, and narrowing it down a little bit and letting the team know that there's a big text campaign going out and be prepared. So, um,
And I would say is forgetting that it's a two-way text, forgetting that
right.
you're sending something out to people that need the information, and not using it as another form of email. Use it as a text, like I said, a conversational tool, asking questions, expecting a response. I think if you write your text messages to expect a response, you'll get better responses. So forgetting that it's a texting option, and then the follow-up, not following up. So I'd say for the first couple of years we used it, yeah, I'm sending out these great text messages. They should be answering, they should be enrolling. And then recognizing our student population, because I was a community college graduate as well. 19-year-old me is not answering and paying attention the way that these students actually are. So the follow-up, you got a student that just digging their heels in and not responding. But the follow-up, I sent you a text. Did you get it? And I think you get a lot more response just because they do that. And then I would even say mistakes have been made. Texts have been sent out. I've sent out a text that had last name instead of first name. And I will tell them, I've sent a mass text right back to them. I'm sorry. I did something wrong. And I will tell you, the I'm sorry text is as good as an actionable text. I get so many responses that say, oh, no problem. Thanks for the follow-up. Awesome. I'm going to do the form later today. It's almost, I wouldn't say do that on purpose, but it's almost like you get the students to engage because you've said, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. And not enough of that happens. So.
Right.
Yeah, that's fun.
Right.
I don't know. Was that the best practice is to make a mistake? I don't know if that's the best practice or not. We can try it out.
Sure. I know I've done it before and it just said first name in brackets. And then I wrote back and said, told you I wasn't a robot. I'm a human. I make mistakes.
Exactly, though. That's the thing.
Right. So I love how we've spent time talking about how things are going and things that we've done. But I just want to know kind of, what does the future of your communication strategy look like? Are you looking at more automations, better segmentation? And then I kind of want both of you to answer for me too. Like, if attendees were to leave this session with one takeaway, what would it be? Either one of you can answer first.
So I would just say that it's continued focus on who the people are that you're trying to enroll. So that's kind of what we're looking at. We've got a lot of different things going on. New York State has offered free tuition, books, and fees to students who are 25 years old, 55 years old. So we have a lot of population in our area that has an opportunity right now. So using the texts to meet the students where they're at, paying attention to times of day, just making sure that we know or we're aware of what works for our students. So all of our future communication strategies are really looking at personas of students. Who are you? Where are you coming from? What does the communication need to look like for you? Even in our traditional four-year institutions in the area, or not in the area, out of the area, anyone's listening, just be aware of who your students are, because for the longest time, they've been real savvy over cost. They're still going to do that. But they're also, we say this, it's played out, but I still believe it firmly, is that fit. They're going to get an idea of where they fit by how you talk to them, how you communicate with them. The less you talk about the wonderful this, that, and the other thing, and the more you get to know them as students, the more they feel like they fit. So I really do think that that's part of the multifaceted communication plan, with that foundation set from the very first text that they get. You congratulate them, you get excited with them, and they actually feel it. That's where all of our communication is going. And obviously we're building with Slate and whatnot, but people will still feel that emotion attached to everything that you do, even through text. So yeah, it's all about people's feelings, emotions, and whatnot, and trying to cater to their belief in themselves, your belief in them, and how you go about that. And then the biggest thing that I would say, and everyone's heard me say it a bunch of times, is this is such a great tool. But if you're going to leave with something, I would say keep that human connection alive in your admission process. Don't make it too automated. It's going to be automated, but direct students to what they need to do. But keep the human communication alive. Use your tools to be efficient, but make sure students don't get lost when we think they need to do this or that or the other thing. Survey your students. We've done that. Find out what's broken, because your students will tell you if you ask them. And we have surveying tools with Mongoose. You'll learn a lot about what you do well, but you'll also learn about what you need to improve. Use Mongoose. It won't hurt your feelings to see it in text.
Yeah, certainly. I think, Ryan, you just talking about the ideas, I will probably take one or two away from that for sure. And right, and being part of the Minnesota state system is like we're continuing to um, fight uh, with our own students, right? So it's like students apply to either one or many colleges within the Minnesota state, and how can Century College be unique, and how, like, who can entice them a little bit more, right? And if that's through a text message, then we will continue to do that. Um, but we do know what has been working. We do know that our weekly text messages works. Um, and when students mentioned that we weren't communicated, but I do see that you opened your email 30 minutes ago, and that it's totally okay. You're responding to us right now. Any way that student can reply um, is is a good thing. Um, and one thing I would say you want to take is yeah, uh, it's a relationship building tool is what I see. Um, there may when sending out an email, it does feel like there's a lot of emotions, like unknown emotions that goes behind an email, right? But then when it comes to texting, it's a little bit more like casual, right? A little bit more ongoing conversations until they stop responding. Um, and that's a good thing. I would say just continue. I think you get every admissions. I would say that admissions is one of the hard working departments in higher ed. I don't care. You guys are doing great. We're doing great.
Yeah.
But and we can control what we can control. Um, and that's where we are.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much. We have some last minute things coming up, but we really appreciate you guys. It's very helpful to hear how both institutions are doing. And they're using Mongoose, but in different ways, different capacities. You guys are getting ideas from each other. And then hopefully those that are attended today have gotten a lot of different ideas and feedback. We are going to leave the chat open for questions as I'm going through some of this upcoming information, some more housekeeping things. But if you do have questions, please feel free to throw them in the chat. Wanted to let you all know about the next two webinars that are coming up. So we are doing these user group sessions once a month. They're the second or third Thursday of the month. The next one is going to be on August 20th to speak about advancement. So looking at what your plans are for the fall, alumni connections, engagement, donors, all of the big things that happen in the fall. So we want to make sure that that group of people get that chance. And we're really excited to hear about how they're using Mongoose on that side of the institution. And then in September, we're also going to focus on first year experience. So a little bit talking about and matching what you all are talking about today with Melt, but how are you keeping those students engaged after they start classes? And how are you handling those students that are, having questions, right? Do they need counseling? Do they need support? Do they need, tutoring, things like that. So we're excited to bring a panel for both of those sessions coming up in the next 2 months. And then the last thing we want to talk about is our new feature is our AI assistant. So we have introduced AI agents. They are on agents and assistants that live on top of your text boxes. And we're really excited to continue to enhance the Mongoose platform. And so if this is something that you're interested in, please reach out to your CSM, like myself or Jasmine, or your account managers can also help get you more information and provide you demos on all the new things that are happening. And later this fall, we'll having more webinars based off of these AI agents. So we're excited to continue to grow in the Mongoose platform. So I do want to thank everyone for joining us. I think we ended right on time today. And again, if you always have any questions or anything like that, please reach out to your CSM or your account manager. You can always just email Mongoose and we will get back to you. Thank you guys so much for joining.